Children of the dawn, hear these words carved in fire and carried on the breath of eternity. Someone who saw you yesterday is hospitalized now, but not by your hand, not by your violence, not by any wound you carved into flesh. They are struck down by the weight of what you carry, the light you dim, the truth you silence, the compassion you forget, the kindness you postpone for another day that never comes. Yes, your absence of goodness can wound as sharply as your misdeeds. For every soul who crossed your path yesterday, one walked away starving for hope you could have given, thirsty for mercy you could have poured, weary from battles you never paused to see. And now they lie in a bed of shadows, not because you harmed them, but because you withheld the healing that was already burning in your spirit. Understand this. Your life is not a silent flame flickering for your own warmth. It is a torch meant to set the cold world ablaze with compassion. Your gaze can lift the fallen. Your words can steady the trembling. Your courage can resurrect what despair has buried. But when you dim yourself, when you let indifference dull the edge of your calling, someone else feels the cold. Someone else falls. Someone else breaks. Do not let this be your legacy. Rise. Let your conscience become armor, your faith become a sword of clarity, your compassion strike harder than any storm. Walk as one who knows. Every encounter is a battlefield, every breath an assignment, every act of kindness a victory unseen by mortal eyes, but recorded in the halls of eternity. Become the reason someone stands up again, not the reason they fall, for the world is aching, and heaven still expects you to answer. Go forth. Shine so fiercely, that no soul who meets you ever collapses under the weight of what you failed to give. Your withheld kindness carries consequences, though not always in ways the world can easily measure or name. Kindness is often spoken of as a gentle gesture, a soft act, a small offering, but in truth it carries the weight of thunder and the power to redirect the course of a life. When you hold back kindness, you do not simply omit a nicety. You deny someone a lifeline at a moment you may not recognize as pivotal. Human hearts move through storms unseen. The person standing before you may wear a calm expression while silently fighting a battle that has chipped away at their strength for years. You may think you are stepping back in neutrality, offering nothing harmful. But neutrality becomes harm when compassion is the very thing that was required. There are moments in a single day when a gentle word could have steadied someone trembling on the edge of despair, when a small gesture of acknowledgement could have lifted someone who felt invisible, when a brief moment of listening could have softened a heart hardened by loneliness. To you, these may seem like small decisions of energy or convenience, but to another, they can determine whether their burden becomes bearable or crushing. Withholding kindness is not an active act of cruelty, yet it can produce consequences just as real. Silence can echo louder than words. Distance can sting more sharply than confrontation. Indifference can bruise more deeply than hostility. You may never know which moment mattered, which soul needed you, Which heart reached out invisibly and found your hands closed? Kindness is not merely an action. It is a responsibility tied to the power you hold as a human being capable of influencing another's emotional landscape. Every person carries an unseen history, regrets they cannot voice, wounds they are ashamed to reveal, dreams they fear are slipping away. When you cross someone's path, you step into that history, if only for a moment. You do not become responsible for their life, but you become responsible for the impact of your presence. Even a brief encounter has the potential to tilt the balance of their day. When you withhold kindness, you allow the world's weight to remain unmoved on their shoulders. When you choose kindness, even in a small form, you help shift that weight, sometimes enough for them to stand again. Consider how often people collapse quietly. They rarely announce their breaking point. They rarely declare that today is the day a kind word could save them. They simply endure until they cannot. And while you cannot carry the full responsibility for another person's emotional survival, you are accountable for the opportunities to uplift them that you consciously choose to ignore. You may believe that you have nothing significant to offer, that your presence is too small to matter, that someone else will step in. But kindness does not require grandeur. It requires willingness, a nod, a greeting, a moment of patience, a brief affirmation of someone's worth. These seem like nothing to the giver but can feel like everything to someone who has grown accustomed to receiving nothing. Kindness withheld can also echo through your own spirit. When you resist compassion, you dull your own capacity to recognize others' humanity. You start walking through the world as though nothing is connected, as though each person is isolated, as though your life leaves no imprint on theirs. This illusion distances you from your own purpose, your own empathy, your own higher calling to be a bearer of light in places where the world has gone dim. Withholding kindness starves not only others, but also the part of you that was made to shine through acts of good. When you deny someone compassion, you deny yourself the chance to embody the strength and grace that kindness cultivates within. Every missed opportunity for kindness becomes a seed of regret that may someday bloom when you realize how little effort it would have taken to illuminate someone's darkness. The consequences are not always dramatic or visible. They are often quiet, a spirit discouraged, a hope delayed, a comfort missed, a moment that could have changed the tone of someone's day left empty. These consequences accumulate like shadows, subtle at first, but growing if ignored. And while you may believe that your small kindnesses cannot possibly alter the world, you must also accept that your refusal to give them contributes to its suffering. When you choose kindness, you interrupt cycles of pain. You break through the numbness of those who have stopped expecting gentleness. You remind others that goodness still exists, and that they are not alone. When you withhold kindness, even unintentionally, you risk reinforcing the belief that the world is too harsh, too cold, too uncaring. And although you are not responsible for every wound others carry, you are responsible for whether you add warmth or chill to their journey. The consequences of withheld kindness are not always immediate. Sometimes they appear later, when someone recalls an interaction and feels dismissed. Sometimes they appear in the tired expression of a person who hoped for understanding but found only silence. Sometimes they appear in your own heart, when you reflect on a moment and realize you could have done more, spoken more gently, reached out instead of shrinking back. These are the consequences that shape the atmosphere of human interaction, the invisible landscape of emotional exchange that determines whether people feel connected or forgotten. Kindness is much more than a soft virtue. It is a force. It can restore clarity to a confused mind, stability to a shaking spirit, courage to a fearful heart. When you withhold it, you halt that restoration. You allow fractures to deepen when your simple gesture could have helped them mend. The consequences may remain invisible to you, but they are deeply felt by the one who needed what you chose not to offer. In a world where wounds often come easily and healing comes slowly, kindness is one of the few tools each person possesses that can shift the balance toward hope. To withhold it is to let the world's despair go unchallenged. To offer it is to declare, in the quietest yet most powerful way, that darkness will not have the final word. Your presence is meant to heal, not diminish. This truth is not born from arrogance or the belief that you alone can mend the world, but from the quiet reality that every person carries an influence, whether they acknowledge it or not. Your words, your posture, your silence, your gaze, these are not neutral. They enter the world like ripples moving across a still lake, touching shores you cannot see. There is a responsibility woven into simply being alive, the responsibility to ensure that the space you occupy becomes warmer, not colder, because of your presence. Healing does not always require grand gestures or heroic actions. Often, it arises from the intangible quality of how you stand in the world. When you step into a room, you bring more than your physical body. You bring your energy, your attentiveness, your intentions, your compassion, or your lack of it. You bring the echo of everything you believe about yourself and others. People feel it, sometimes consciously, sometimes deep in the unspoken places where intuition lives. A single moment with you can soothe someone's anxieties or amplify them. It can remind someone of their worth or make them question it. It can calm a troubled spirit or stir a wound. That is why your presence matters. It is not something small or insignificant. It has the power to mend or to erode, to strengthen or to weaken. Every encounter is meaningful because you carry the potential to leave someone lighter than you found them. Healing presence does not require you to fix another person's life. That is not your role, nor would it be fair to place that burden upon yourself. Healing presence means you become someone whose very being creates a sense of safety, where others feel they do not need to hide, pretend, or shrink. It is the quiet ability to offer steadiness through your calmness, clarity through your sincerity, and comfort through your humility. A healing presence listens without judgment, speaks without cruelty, and observes without dismissing. It recognizes the humanity of others, even when they themselves have forgotten it. There are countless individuals who have never experienced such a presence. They have met many who diminish, those who mock, belittle, ignore, or carry such heavy bitterness that it spills onto everyone nearby. Diminishing presence is not always intentional. Some people diminish others because they themselves are afraid, wounded, insecure, or overwhelmed. Still, the effect remains. They leave others feeling smaller, weaker, or more alone. When you choose to cultivate a healing presence instead, you become a rare force in a world hungry for gentleness. Your presence is meant to heal because at your core, you are wired for connection. Human beings were never designed to walk through life untouched by the influence of others. Every joy is shaped by shared experiences. Every grief is softened when someone stands beside you. To diminish others is to tear at the fabric that binds lives together. To heal is to mend it, thread by thread, choice by choice. Healing presence is not a performance but a reflection of your inner state. When your heart is aligned with compassion, you naturally radiate steadiness. When your intentions are rooted in goodness, even your silence becomes comforting. Think of the people who once changed something inside you without even knowing it. The teacher who believed in you, the stranger who smiled at you on a difficult day, the friend who listened without trying to fix you. Their presence did not diminish you, it lifted you, anchored you, reminded you that you were not invisible. These individuals embodied the very truth you now hold. Presence can heal in ways the world never documents. Their impact lives quietly in you, shaping the way you think and feel today. And just as others once carried light for you, so now you carry it for someone else. To heal through presence does not mean you must always feel strong or perfect. Imperfection does not prevent you from being a source of comfort. Authenticity enhances it. A person who admits their struggles, but chooses gentleness anyway, carries a deeper power than someone who pretends to be unbreakable. Healing presence is rooted in sincerity. It is the honesty that creates trust, the humility that creates connection, the empathy that creates understanding. When you stand in your truth without imposing it on others, you invite them to stand in theirs. There will be moments when your presence feels inadequate, when you wish you could do more, say more, change more. But healing does not always require action. Sometimes it is simply the act of being there, truly being there, that becomes the medicine. When you offer someone your presence, you are telling them, you do not have to carry this moment alone. That affirmation has the power to soften even the hardest experiences. Loneliness wounds deeply. Companionship heals quietly. To diminish others is, in essence, to betray your own gift. You were not created to be a force of harm, nor a source of fear. You were not made to add weight to another person's burden. When you diminish others, through impatience, cruelty, arrogance, or apathy, you also diminish yourself. You shrink your own capacity to love, to uplift, to inspire. You step away from the highest potential within you. Healing presence, on the other hand, expands you. It enriches your spirit, sharpens your empathy, strengthens your integrity. Each choice to uplift someone else also uplifts you. When you walk through the world with the intention to heal, you become an anchor for those who are drifting. You become a reminder that goodness still exists, that compassion is still possible, that hope has not vanished. Your very presence becomes a quiet sanctuary, a place where others feel less afraid. The world does not change through loud proclamations, but through the steady influence of those who live with purpose. Every day, your presence writes an invisible legacy in the hearts of those around you. The question is not whether you leave a mark, but what kind of mark you choose to leave. You are meant to bring warmth, clarity, and steadiness into the spaces you enter. You are meant to heal through gentleness, through understanding, through the simple act of showing up with an open heart. Your presence is not an accident. It is a gift entrusted to you with the expectation that you will use it to mend, not to harm, and every moment offers you the chance to become exactly what someone else needs: a steady voice in chaos, a quiet light in darkness, a reminder that kindness still breathes in this world. Every encounter is a divine responsibility, whether it lasts a lifetime or only a heartbeat. You may believe that the small exchanges, the passing glances, the brief conversations contain no real weight, but the truth is that every moment in which your life intersects with another carries a purpose, even if it remains hidden from you. There is no such thing as a meaningless crossing of paths. Each person who steps into your presence enters a sacred space, a moment suspended between what they were and what they might become. You stand as a witness to their life, however briefly, and in that witnessing, you bear the responsibility to honor their humanity. To treat each encounter as a divine responsibility is to understand that people are not fragments, not interruptions, not obstacles in your day. They are entire worlds, complex, wounded, hopeful, afraid. They carry private histories, invisible battles, and silent dreams. You cannot see the fullness of their story, but you can choose to treat them as someone who matters. You can choose to respond with patience instead of irritation, compassion instead of indifference, and awareness instead of carelessness. These choices may seem small, almost insignificant, but they echo far beyond the moment itself. Every encounter leaves a footprint on the spirit of the other person, and the size of that footprint is shaped by the intention you bring. Responsibility does not mean burden, it means awareness. It means you are conscious of the impact you leave, even when the world is not watching. When you speak, your words enter someone else's thoughts. When you listen, your silence becomes permission for another to feel seen. When you make space for someone, their heart remembers the safety you offered. Responsibility is not about fixing anyone. It is about being deliberate with the power you carry simply by existing in relation to others. You are an influence every time you are present. The question is not whether you influence, but whether that influence brings someone closer to healing or pushes them further into hardship. There are moments when a stranger is placed before you not by coincidence, but because something in you is meant to awaken something in them. It may be a lesson, a comfort, a test, or a reminder. You may never know which role you played, and you are not meant to. The divine responsibility is not to understand the purpose. It is to show up with integrity regardless of the purpose. You act with care not because you know what the moment demands, but because you recognize that every moment demands something sacred. Even when someone brings frustration, even when they carry darkness, even when their presence unsettles yours, your responsibility remains to choose the higher path, the truer path, the path that reflects not your frustration but your character. Consider the times when someone else changed the direction of your day without knowing it. Perhaps a kind word pulled you back from spiraling thoughts. Perhaps someone's patience softened your anger. Perhaps someone's unexpected generosity renewed your hope. These encounters were divine responsibilities fulfilled by those individuals. They did not know the depth of your struggle or the weight you carried, yet their simple decision to be compassionate altered the atmosphere around you. In the same way, your actions, whether you see their effects or not, enter the unseen places of someone else's life. Every encounter is a chance to affirm someone's humanity, to treat them as more than a task, more than a problem, more than a face in a crowd. The world often teaches people to rush past each other, to remain closed off, to avoid emotional investment. But divine responsibility calls for something deeper. It asks you to slow down enough to recognize that even the briefest interaction can be an instrument of healing or a weapon of harm. You are responsible for which one you become. This responsibility also extends to how you carry yourself internally. If you move through the world with bitterness, fear, or resentment, that energy spills into your interactions. But when you cultivate peace within yourself, when you seek understanding, when you practice forgiveness, when you strengthen your inner clarity, your presence naturally becomes a shelter for others. People feel when they are in the presence of someone who is grounded, someone who has chosen alignment with compassion rather than chaos. That sense of safety is one of the greatest gifts you can offer through your encounters. Responsibility does not imply perfection. You will have moments when you fall short, when your patience fades, when your words are sharper than intended. But divine responsibility calls for awareness, not flawlessness. It asks you to return again and again to the intention of doing good, of being mindful, of honoring the sacredness of human connection. When you fall, you rise with greater understanding. When you hurt someone, you repair with humility. When you miss the moment, you prepare for the next one. Responsibility is not erased by imperfection. It is strengthened by recommitment. Every encounter is also a mirror. The people you meet reflect aspects of yourself. Your wounds, your strengths, your fears, your growth. How you treat them reveals the state of your own heart. When you approach others with kindness, you affirm kindness within yourself. When you approach others with judgment, you reveal unresolved places within your own spirit. The divine responsibility in each encounter is not only to uplift others, but to recognize the opportunity for your own evolution. You are constantly being shaped by the way you respond to the world, and the world is shaped in return by the way you show up. When you embrace the sacredness of each meeting, you begin to see the world differently. You no longer move through your days as though life is a series of unrelated events. Instead, you understand that every person you encounter is part of a larger tapestry. Threads woven by purpose, timing, and connection. Some threads will remain in your life for years. Others will pass through only once. But each one deserves to be treated with honor. In the end, divine responsibility means choosing to be a vessel of goodness in a world where goodness is often overshadowed. It means understanding that every encounter holds weight, even when it feels light. It means recognizing that your presence, your voice, your compassion, and your awareness can change the atmosphere of someone's life. And it means living in a way that respects the sacred opportunity each interaction offers, to lift, to soothe, to inspire, to understand, and to leave every soul a little stronger than you found it. Rise and let your light prevent another fall. There is a power within you that you may not fully recognize, a glow that does not come from circumstance, appearance, or achievement, but from the quiet strength woven into your spirit. This light is not meant to be hidden, dimmed, or contained. It is meant to radiate into the spaces where others have grown accustomed to darkness. You are called, not by force, but by the truth of who you are, to rise above your fears, your doubts, your wounds, and your hesitation, and to let your light shine in a way that steadies those who walk beside you. Every life moves through cycles of brightness and shadow. Even the strongest stumble. Even the bravest falter. Even the most confident face moments of collapse. When someone falls, they do not always announce it. They may continue smiling while their spirit sinks. They may keep walking while their hope fractures. They may look whole while they crumble inside. You may not always recognize the moment when someone near you is on the brink of giving up. But your light, your kindness, your courage, your compassion, your integrity can be the very thing that keeps them from slipping further. To rise is not to elevate yourself above others. It is to lift yourself into the fullness of your purpose, so that others can find stability in your presence. When you rise, you create a path for others to rise as well. Light spreads, strength inspires, hope multiplies. Just as a single flame can ignite 1,000 others, without losing its glow, your inner fire can awaken something in others that they thought had died. When you rise, you give permission for others to believe rising is possible. When you stand tall, you give someone else the courage to straighten their back. When you refuse to surrender to despair, someone watching finds the will to keep fighting. Your light does not need to be spectacular to be effective. You do not need to be perfect, flawless, or extraordinary. You only need to be willing. Willing to try, willing to care, willing to offer what you have, even when it feels small. Light is powerful not because of its size but because of its nature. It dispels darkness simply by existing. When you choose compassion over indifference, you shine. When you choose patience over frustration, you shine. When you choose forgiveness over bitterness, you shine. And each time you shine, someone else in the shadows sees possibility instead of hopelessness. There will be moments when rising feels impossible, when your own burdens weigh heavily, when your own wounds ache. But light does not vanish because of struggle, it is often forged in it. Rising does not mean pretending you are unbroken. It means standing despite your fractures. It means choosing growth despite your pain. It means believing that what you carry within you is stronger than what you carry around you. In these moments, your decision to rise is not only for yourself, but for those who depend on the brightness you bring. You may never know whose fall you prevented simply by being present. Perhaps someone was spiraling into despair until your words steadied them. Perhaps someone felt worthless until your kindness reminded them of their value. Perhaps someone was drowning internally until your patience gave them room to breathe. People rarely reveal the depth of their struggle, and even more rarely admit when someone else saved them. But unseen impact is still impact. Your light may illuminate a path you never see. Your rising may strengthen someone you never know was watching. Letting your light shine is not a call to pride, but to purpose. It is an invitation to live intentionally, to act with awareness, to understand that what you do matters. Every person carries influence. Every soul carries the potential to shift another's course. To rise is to embrace that potential. It is to carry yourself with the knowledge that your presence can be a stabilizing force, a guiding fire, a source of calm in a chaotic world. Yet light must be chosen. It must be tended, protected, and renewed. Fear tries to dim it. Shame tries to smother it. Doubt tries to bury it. The world offers endless reasons to hide your brilliance. People who misunderstand you, circumstances that discourage you, failures that haunt you. But rising means refusing to let these forces define you. It means choosing resilience over retreat. It means believing that your light is still needed, even when you feel unworthy of carrying it. There will be times when you question whether your light makes any difference at all. In those moments, remember how easily darkness grows when light remains silent. Remember how many falls go unchecked, because no one stood tall enough to block the descent. Remember how many hearts break quietly, waiting for someone courageous enough to shine when everyone else has surrendered to the dimness. Your light is not meaningless, it is necessary. To prevent another fall, you do not need to solve their problems or erase their pain. You simply need to be a presence that steadies, reassures, and reminds them that they are not alone. Your strength may be the handrail someone grips as they climb. Your compassion may be the rope they hold when everything else slips. Your consistency may be the ground beneath their trembling feet. When your light shines, it becomes a landmark for those who have lost their way. Rising is not a one-time act. It is a continual choice. Every day you rise again. You rise above negativity, above discouragement, above the temptation to withdraw. You rise despite setbacks. You rise despite exhaustion. You rise because someone else needs your example as much as you need your purpose. The world does not change through grand gestures, but through consistent, quiet rising. Let your light be unwavering. Let it be the flame others shelter around when the nights grow cold. Let it be the lantern that catches someone's eye when they wander too far into despair. Let it be the beacon that signals, there is still hope. For as long as you rise, someone else will find the strength to rise with you. As long as you shine, someone else will find the courage to keep walking. And as long as your light exists, darkness loses even the slightest chance to claim another fall.